Donald Trump was asked more about what it is that Jerome Powell could do to make him happier. And of course, he brings up lowering rates, but then he goes into the reasons why, because Jerome Powell keeps telling him it's because of those tariffs. So in order to try to mitigate that problem, because his tariffs are a disaster, he's trying to push this whole deal he's had with Japan as something that's big and has actually flipped the script on the idea of his tariffs charging everyone more money and leading to more inflation.
Are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. Other than that, what can I tell you? The country's doing really well. I just briefed the chairman on the deal we made with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit. That way they have a little bit lower tariff. And they also opened their country to free trade, which nobody thought was even a possibility. And we get a zero tariff in the free trade. We don't pay tariffs, and they're going to pay 15% on everything they send into our country. So it's great. But they put up, as you could call it, seed money. Let's call it seed money. You could call it anything you want, but it's a total of $550 billion. So nobody thought any of that was possible, and it's wonderful. And we're doing pretty well with the European Union, likewise. And we have some others. They're all really big, and our country's going to make a lot of money.
Russ Vought went on TV and tried to defend this too. I would go to him, but all he said was some of the same stuff, that they're just watching for the Fed very closely to lower those rates. And that also, by the way, as the CNBC reporter asked him this basic, economic question, usually the Fed would lower rates when the economy, is doing badly. He just glossed right by that point. I would rather show you guys Howard Lutnick talk about this Japan deal, because I don't think enough people are really looking deep into this. Here's Howard Lutnick lying about it, though.
Mr. Secretary, when it comes to the Japan deal, the $550 billion in investment, we were trying to grapple with this a bit yesterday. Do we have specifics around where that's coming from, where it's going, what timelines, what metrics, what they're going to be held to? I'm just trying to understand a bit more around what is obviously a very large number.
So the key is, this is not regular foreign investment. This is not Toyota building a plant in America. That's what normally people think about. This is literally the Japanese government itself saying to Donald Trump, we will provide Donald Trump and the American people $550 billion on projects you choose. And we will give you 90% of the profits, America. So basically, Donald Trump can pick the projects, and we are working the details out now. We're doing the documentation right now. But here's an example. If Donald Trump says, look, we don't make generic antibiotics in America. We don't make antibiotics. So let's go build those factories. Let's go invest $15 billion, and let's take care of generic antibiotics. And bang, the Japanese will finance it for us. It doesn't cost us money. And those profits, 90% of the profits stay in America. 10% go back to the Japanese to pay their cost of funding. And that's it. We don't have any obligation to pay anything other than 90-10 split. So Donald Trump can take care of America.
And they're under an obligation to actually provide that financing. I mean, is there a way you're going to measure it if they're in violation, or I'm just curious over what time period?
It's easy. This is so easy, right, Don? We give them the project. They pay for the project. They don't pay for the project, their tariff is going to go sky high the next day. They're going to pay for the project. This is easy to execute.
Okay.
Who could deny that kind of deal? Japan literally is giving you $550 billion for you to take 90% of profits from that $550 billion investment into the country. And these Japanese companies and this Japanese government, who's a part of this whole deal, want nothing in return except for 10% of their money. And in other words, they're just giving us money because, that's how other countries are successful in any kind of trade deals. So you may ask yourself the question, what incentive does these Japanese leaders have to make this kind of deal where Donald Trump is walking off acting like he just robbed them of $550 billion? I asked that question too, and there's some answers if you actually wanted them. One of them is from Axios. A reported $550 billion investment commitment from Japan would reflect a massive surge in the nation's financial exposure to the United States. But no one, either the Japanese or U.S. government, has really articulated key details about how it would really work. Remember, they had this same problem when they had this deal they had with the UK? No details were given. Have you heard more details since, or has it been 2 weeks yet? More. In U.S. officials' description of the commitments, President Trump would have the discretion to direct the investment funds, Japanese money, and the U.S. would receive 90% of the profits, as Lutnick lied about. It's unclear what legal entities on either the Japanese or U.S. side would be involved, or what would be in it for the Japanese companies if they have neither control over the investments nor a financial return. We have this weird assumption that other countries don't know how money works and don't know how investment works and don't know how to make money because, you're not the United States of America. So when these deals happen, the point is to make some money, not give it away. One more slide from this whole thing Axios was talking about. Japan is already the single largest source of foreign direct investment into the U.S., with a cumulative capital of $754 billion deployed as of last year. Not just last year, as of last year, over a longer period of time. And it's been rising rapidly, nearly doubling over the last decade. So they are putting more money and investments into the country, but that's not just to give it away. Axios points this out as a reality check. That has been driven by Japanese companies voluntarily making investments on which they expect to earn a handsome return. So think of the Toyota manufacturing plant in Georgetown, Kentucky. It reflects about $10 billion in investment as of early last year. $10 billion of investment, not giveaway, right? You expect something back. So here's the last line that you guys should really pay attention to as they're talking about it. Everything's going to happen in 5 seconds. But those kinds of projects don't spin up overnight. The initial groundbreaking on the Toyota plant, again, that's $10 billion investment. That was in 1986 is when that started. It's almost 30 years ago. Sorry, almost 40 years ago. Jeez. 86. Almost 40 years ago, they started that process of that investment of $10 billion into that groundbreaking plant in Georgetown, Kentucky. But we're supposed to believe that all of these investments, number one, are going to happen overnight, as this takes time. And also that after those investments of all this money that they be funneling into the United States is just being given to us. That's what they expect you to believe. I have a better idea. Just don't believe their lies. Like I've said before, when we're talking about the Epstein stuff and we're talking about these trade deals and we're talking about foreign policy and we're talking about what they're doing with waste, fraud, and abuse when it comes to this bill that they just passed, none of it is based in reality. It's all lies. And it's all about taking in more money. So what mechanisms, I've asked this before, what mechanisms are in place after they get this $550 billion of giveaway money from Japan? What mechanisms are in place where that's going to actually come and benefit all these regular everyday people who are saying, look at all the billions of dollars we're bringing in. Where is it going? Where's the billions of dollars going? What programs and what situations and agenda items is this administration now rolling out that's going to directly benefit your life with that $550 billion, even if it was on the up and up, even if they weren't lying about what they're lying about? Do you know? How does it work? Because that bill that they're touting, that puts all the mechanisms in place to keep any and all money that they deem away from you. Matter of fact, the money that you already deserve, that you've already paid into the system, they're keeping. That's what that bill did.